Imagine you are selling your home. It's the middle of the day and you hear a knock at the door. You're not expecting anyone, so you cautiously make your way to the front door and look out the peephole. You see a man standing there with a DirecTV shirt on, thinking he must have the wrong home. You answer the door. The man introduces himself, but he's not there for an install for one of your neighbors. He says he's actually wanting to look at your home. Being it's October of 2008 during the recession, you eagerly oblige, hoping that this will be the one that gets you out from underneath your house. The man is quiet as you give him the tour. He's not asking many questions, which could mean anything, and you continue to take him room to room. There's a sense of familiarity. You feel like you've seen this man somewhere before. Finally, you're at the part of the tour when you show the bedrooms, and you start with the kids' rooms. Once you're inside your youngest child's bedroom, you turn to show the man the view from the window, and you hear fidgeting behind you. And all of a sudden, the man is right up on you so close that you can feel his breath, and before you can even react, he shoves you onto your son's bed and ties your hands and feet. Now, the happiness and joy of the potential sale of your home turns to fear and survival. Those dreams you were just having of signing the papers and moving on to your next adventure in life is now a living nightmare that you aren't sure that you'll live through. This is the exact scenario that played out on October 15th, 2008 in Trigg County, Kentucky at the home of Christy Frensley and her 3 children. After Kevin Wayne Dunlap had tied Christy up in her son's bedroom, he then made her move into her bedroom. He made her sit up on her bed and wanted to smoke a cigarette. And he put a cigarette in Christy's mouth also and made her drink something that he had in a brown paper bag. He paced back and forth and up and down the hall and questioned her about her children. Dunlap asked Christy when they would be home. Christy, thinking he just wanted time with her to do whatever he was going to do, tried to be a good mom and save her children, offering to do whatever he wanted, and then he could just leave before they got home and she wouldn't tell anybody. She also said if he needed more time, she could meet them at the door and send them to the neighbor's house when they got home from school. Dunlap just told Christy to shut up and seemed to want to wait for the kids to get home. She kept offering solutions that would keep her children safe and away, but he would just tell her to shut up and seemed to get increasingly angry when the children were late coming home from school. Once the children were home, Dunlap forced them to lay on their stomachs and bound their hands and feet. He took them away and then returned to give Christy an ultimatum. Her, or Kayla, her oldest daughter. Christy just wanted to protect her kids and offered herself to Dunlap. When he was finished, he made Christy wash off in the tub, attempting to conceal the evidence. Dunlap apparently thought that it wasn't good enough because when they returned to the room, he told Christy, "I'm going to have to put you out." And he proceeded to try to unalive Christy by strangulation. But this wasn't a movie and it wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. Feeling that she wasn't dying fast enough, he tried breaking her neck. But again, it's not as easy to snap someone's neck as it is on TV, so when that didn't work, he started cutting her neck with a knife. And he stabbed Christy in the neck 4 times and then stabbed her in her left ear and twice in the lower area of her back. Determined to live for her kids, Christy was still alive, but she laid still so Dunlap would believe he had finally succeeded. He then left the room after draping a blanket over the top of Christy, and once she was sure that he was gone, she peeked out from under the blanket and saw her son across the hall in his room. She saw him laying on a pile of pillows and thought maybe he was pretending to be asleep or that Dunlap had told him to close his eyes. She smelled smoke and tried to get up and go to her son, but she could not move her legs. Christy then rolled outside through the doors that led to the pool deck, and she could feel hot embers falling on her and burning her skin and hair. She could hear people in the yard on the other side of the house and felt relief knowing that someone was there, and she knew they would go inside and save her children. Christy was found face up in the pool, and she was alive but in very bad shape. After arriving at the hospital, Christy received x-rays where they found a butter knife had been broken off in her neck, requiring surgery to remove it. Her wounds that could be closed up were, and the doctor reported Christy as being cold to the touch. A family friend who stopped by nearly every day had stopped by that day around 4:30 p.m. He had no idea that anything was wrong and the house was completely silent, so he decided to leave. Not long after he left, he was paged to a house fire at his friend Christy's address. When he got back to her house, he saw the body of Christy's oldest daughter, 17-year-old Kayla, laying near the house, and they found Christy in the pool. All of a sudden, the truck that he noticed when he had initially stopped by became more important than he could ever imagine. Neighbors had noticed the smoke coming from Christy's house and saw her car in the driveway. Being it was after school, they knew Christy and her kids were home. Some neighbors saw feet through the window and broke it to gain entry. The feet were Christy's oldest daughter, who had her hands and feet bound and she was gagged. The fire was so hot when they grabbed her to pull her outside, her skin melted off into their hands. They managed to get her outside and attempted CPR, and when the medics arrived, they used the defibrillator on her heart with no success. She had been stabbed in the neck and her throat was cut ear to ear, and she succumbed to her injuries shortly after being pulled out of the house. The whereabouts and condition of Christy's other two children were unknown. After the fire was put out, the home was searched, and unfortunately the bodies of Christy's other two children were located. Her middle child, Courtney, who was 14 years old, was stabbed 4 times, 3 times in the chest and once in her neck. Christy's youngest child, 5-year-old Ethan, was stabbed 11 times. 1 wound penetrated his heart, and Dunlap used such force while stabbing him that Ethan's rib was completely split in half. During Kayla's autopsy, they found that Dunlap had used a steak knife and he had struck her with so much force that the blade broke off at the handle during the attack and landed in her sweater. Dunlap was arrested 3 days after the attack on October 18th of 2008. He was charged with various offenses including capital murder, kidnapping, assault, and arson. In March of 2010, Dunlap pled guilty to 13 charges and was sentenced to death. Christy spoke at his sentencing, telling him, "I hate you with every fiber of my being, and I only wish I was able to bring you a fraction of the pain that you brought my daughter and her siblings." Christy's father made an impact statement also telling Dunlap, "I only regret that I cannot be allowed to determine your punishment on my own and carry it out as your personal executioner." The DA followed the impact statement, saying that this was all the system could do, and if there was ever a case that cried out for the death penalty, it was this case. During the trial and sentencing, Dunlap stayed quiet and emotionless, looking down the majority of the time. He never apologized or gave a reason for this crime. It was determined that he had lived on the same road a few houses down from Christy and her kids about 6 years prior to the attack. It was stated that from his old home there was a clear view into Christy's backyard. In 2013, Dunlap made a statement saying he did not want any more appeals to take place, but miraculously in 2022 he changed his mind. Dunlap, under the counsel of Louisville attorneys for the Kentucky Poor People's Campaign, requested a new trial. The basis of the new trial stated many things, such as Dunlap's history of childhood brain injuries and his upbringing would have had an impact on his executive functioning in his frontal lobe, and they said Dunlap had a misdiagnosed mental illness. They also stated that Dunlap was prescribed different medicines, including the prescription Chantix to quit smoking, which creates a risk of loss of impulse control and burst of violence. He was also said to be so intoxicated that he could not see straight. The state is arguing that he was fully aware and in control of his actions and knew exactly what he was doing. So let's review some of the things that required impulse control and coherency. He drove to Christy's house. He pretended to want to buy it. He was given a tour, quietly waiting for the right time to attack her. He waited for her kids to get home. He gave Christy a choice of who would be violated, her or her daughter. He made Christy clean up in the bath. He tried multiple ways to unalive Christy, never being successful, and he then lit her house on fire to conceal all of the evidence of his crimes and fled the scene. He did seem to have an extreme amount of rage in all of the children's murders and Christy's attempted murder. There was extreme overkill, and he used so much force that he broke multiple knives during the attacks. Not to mention the amount of times and force he used to unalive a 5-year-old child. It seems like this is going to be an ongoing case, so I will keep you updated with information as it comes available and if there is a new trial and what the outcome of those proceedings are. And that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story as much as I enjoyed telling it. If you haven't already and you did enjoy the story, like, love, and make sure to check out the previous stories I have posted. Also, if you enjoyed this story or any others I have, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future installment. Feel free to share with anyone who enjoys less than well-known dark reality stories, and leave a comment or let me know if there are any stories that you would personally like me to research and cover. Have a great weekend.